So my other video was talking about country living, city living, and because I was raised in the country, uh, I just assumed with my mindset that it's that defines it correctly, and just because you're in the country does not give the definition properly what I'm trying to talk about. When I said agrarian, I mentioned something that word the other day to somebody that they filed on their taxes a farmer for their whole life. That was occupation, a farmer. And I said that word agrarian, and they asked me, what does that mean? Because it's just not a common word. Like a husbandman. And I don't say, I'm a husbandman. See, that's a Bible word. It means farmer. Husbandman means a farmer in the Bible. Who walks around and go, but that's what that is. I mean, it's one who works the land and is a farmer. I don't, somebody says, well, what do you do for a living? I'm a husbandman. That's a word, it's just like a word agrarian. It's not, I'm agrarian. You say, I'm a farmer. Anyway, I have to admit that it was misleading to say that just because you're in the country, thumbs up. Because I have seen people that lived in the country, thumbs down. And I got to clarify too, just because somebody's a farmer doesn't mean always thumbs up, because you can have farmers that are not honest. I mean, it's just a moral flaw, a moral character flaw. But you gotta have that in the city too, a moral character flaw. My point was, and why it stirs with me, because on the religious aspect, because I'm in the Bible Belt here, it's in my face all the time. When I used to live in Wisconsin, there was a bar on every corner, and you'd go snowmobiling in the wintertime, and you'd have trails that you could just bar hop with the snowmobiles. You forget about riding the roads, you start using the snowmobile trails. And they'd have groomers and, upkeep in the trails. And some of them had like stop signs where you stop, or speed limit, or warning in the trails. It's just like another highway out there in the wintertime. And so you come down to the Bible Belt, and I've heard people say that, well, there's like a church house on every, I call it the clubhouse, on every corner. Well, I guess that would be better to have one of them clubs than the other club. When I came to Arkansas, I never heard this before. Dry county. For real. I'm naive, or whatever you want to call it. If you never heard it your whole life, you just go, what does that mean? You're just not supposed to know what that means. And because I'm a farmer, I'm like, you have that county is less precipitation than that one? I didn't know. And they said, no, it's alcohol free. They don't sell alcohol in that county. And that county's a wet county. Dry county, wet county. So wet county meant alcohol county, and the other one was a dry county, non-alcohol. I mean, you had to learn that. That was something that I just didn't know until I came to Arkansas. So, but I'm saying there's an advantage to being farming or acquainted with farming because of this guy called Jesus. And I'm not a very computer literate. So this chat, Gronk, DeepSeek, it's all new to me. So you ask these AI, which I did. What about the famine, the 7-year famine that was supposed to be? Well, that's debatable. What about this guy called Moses? Well, that's debatable. But what about this guy called Jesus? The answer was there definitely was a guy called Jesus. It's like I was kind of surprised because AI is going to tell you, oh, that's a alien or fairy tale. No, they said definitely. But what was this debatable was, well, did he rise from the dead and stuff? But the Muslims believe there was a Jesus. Basically, AI believes there was a guy called Jesus. And it was not like there wasn't. That may change. You never know how AI is going. Part of my journey, talk about when I used to milk cows. You're busy 7 days a week. You're milking cows and you're busy with your herd and feeding them and so you're busy physically working and everything is geared up around your occupation. And so one of my light bulb moments for a farmer now, there's more to this life than just milking cows and making food and grazing beef and the whole deal, agrarian. There's more to life than that. And I was like, what? They said, get your money out. And they said, look in the back of your dollar bill. And he says, now, have you ever seen that before? And I'm looking at it because I guess you don't look at it. I didn't. So on that one side of that dollar bill was a pyramid with a gap and a capstone. And under there, in God we trust, and then some other language that I didn't know. I mean, that was my life. That's my little bubble that I was raised in. I don't know, maybe somebody else can relate to that. But if you want to call it like a stepping stone, I mean, I had to start somewhere. And they go, why is there a pyramid with a capstone with an eyeball looking at you? In God we trust. I didn't know, but it seemed a little weird. I'm looking at that. Now, see, I'm milking cows, this kind of stuff, and then you go, well, do you know? And they started explaining this stuff to me. Do you know what this here Latin words are? One world order. No, I don't know what them words are. And they started telling me there's more. There's stuff going on that you're not aware of. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on out there that you're not aware of. And when you start finding out, it's like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on. Say, like, for instance, that person that's starting to introduce me to that stuff, I'm like, how would I know if they're telling me the truth or not? But it did puzzle me when I'm looking at that dollar. Why is there a pyramid? I mean, I'm thinking of United States pyramid, and with a capstone with an eyeball. I mean, it was just I couldn't, how is that federal, or how is that? What does that have to do with my money? I know somebody decided to put that on there. They could have put, flowers on there or something. I don't know why did they decide they could have put a seagull by the ocean, some kind of scenery, whatever. But they decided to put that on there. What was, of all the pictures and images to put on there, that was decided to put that on there with those words under there. And I'm looking at, I didn't know. I never asked the question before. I never bothered. I didn't even know about it. I just walking around with the money in my pocket. So you start asking questions. That's a good thing. Start asking questions. Why is this? Why is that? Why is that? So the guy said, the plan is to go eventually without this money. You don't need this money anymore. You will function without cash. And I'm just busy milking cows, worried about the bulk tank is full, keeping the calves alive, baling hay, cultivating corn. You just said, my world. I'm just busy, and then this is coming up, and I'm going, well, should I even concern myself? And then anyway, it just was unsettling, and so I asked my banker. I used to have debt back then. So I went to the banker, the vice president, and I go, this is your business here. This is how you're in the money deal, not me. So I'm going to ask you, I don't know anybody else to ask. Back then, for me, I was not on the internet. I couldn't call Gronk, or I didn't have any of that. I was just busy physically grabbing bales of hay and feeding them to the cows, and it was just a simple life. That was your life. And so I asked the money man that I knew. He's the best money man that I could talk to. This here talk about going cashless. Eventually there'd be going out cash. Is that true? Is there anything to that? Immediately, now this is like 30 some years ago, he says, oh yeah. I'm like, okay. He says, and I'll give you 3 reasons why right now. I mean, it was like he's common knowledge to him. I repeated that story here to another banker in this area. He says, everything that you said is true. Meaning, all I did was repeat what that guy said up there 30-some years ago. Everything you said is true. He says, the only thing that's different now than what he said is we just don't have the cash in the tills like he did back then. We don't have hardly any cash to work with. So if you want to go in there and say, give me 10,000 cash, you're going to have problems getting money, cash, because they just don't have the cash like they did back then. He said that's the only thing different in the story. It's actually, to me, it's getting worse. So, what he said, he says the Federal Reserve, see now I didn't know anything, Federal Reserve. I was like, okay, that's the people that print that money. That's the people that are managing the economy, and boy, was I really out of the loop at that time. But anyway, he's informing me. He says, we know how many bills we printed. And they were coming out at that time with these little metallic strips in there, and watercoloring and stuff, that metallic strip was coming out. So because I started looking at that, maybe it was out a while already, I don't know, but I noticed that when I started looking at the money, you go, well, they got this metallic strip in there, and I was like, really, there's really in there. And he says, we know how many bills we've printed, and we know that there's 1/3 Now this is what he told me. Is it true? Try it out yourself. He says, we know that there's 1/3 more bills out there at that time, printed out there, than what we printed. Meaning if you went to Japan, Australia, Germany, China, Russia, that dollar is floating all around. You know, that paper dollar is all around. Mexico, Canada, it's all around. But we know that there's 1/3 more of them paper dollar bills out there than what we printed, which is counterfeit. There's a lot of counterfeiting going on. And that's why that metallic strip was and the watermark and all that. And they go, if we went cashless or digital, that's what that was getting. If we go digital, then could eliminate that better. We'd have more control. We'd tighten it up, and so that your venue is only through digital and not this here counterfeits. I don't know how but anyway, they were thinking about this obviously 30 some years ago, and I'm sure longer than that. But that was my experience. That's my little journey. My little light bulb going on. My little aware that something else is going on more than milking a cow. You may have the same thing happen to you. A light bulb went on. I don't know. And he says another one is, this is where the banker in today's world said that was different. He says we have 3 branches, and he named the cities that they had these branches in. It's the same banking system that owned all 3. This is back when there wasn't such a conglomerate where bankers are buying up banks and everybody's owning everybody. They were still more of a private banking system, small potatoes. But he says that of our 3 branches, we have $1 million in the till. We have actual $1 million of our 3. If we add it up in our 3 branches, when you pull open the drawer to work with the public, because when they come and cash their Friday check, or they want to cash their money orders, we have to open up the drawer and have to have cash to work with the people. We have $1 million, but he says that $1 million is dead money. We're not getting any interest on that money. And if we were digital, then we don't have dead money. We can figure out how to have. Anyway, he called it dead money. And I didn't know they had $1 million in a drawer, and my mind is not even thinking about that. That's called. I'm just out of the loop, and it's just how I'm being informed. Okay, I see as a banker, you don't want dead money. You want money that's invested, getting interest. You just don't want money there for people cashing their checks. Then he says there's a thing called interest on that. And he says when you're dealing with billions and trillions of dollars around the world now, when you're exchanging money, and I knew a little bit about skiting, when the people would skite a check, or kiting, I guess you call it, whatever, People would write a check, and by the time it made the loop, you could get probably 3 days or 2 days, and there would be no money. But then the next banking account, you could skite, or kite, whatever that is, another check, and you could keep, by the time the check was cashed and said it was good, you already wrote another check off a different account, and you just keep bouncing, and the lag time to catch up, it's kind of like a catch-up game. You got 2 or 3 days to work with. Anyway, you've heard these stories before. And he says that would be eliminated. Because as soon as something is transacted, like you bought your groceries, it's immediately from your account into their account. And that be eliminated. But when it's from your account to that account, like all these accounts all around the world, when you put that money from that account trillions of dollars now, billions, millions, millions and millions. So you got a million transactions of millions of dollars. I mean, my little bubble there in my barn, I didn't know that all this other activity, I'm not thinking about it. It's going on. People are exchanging millions of dollars out there, and I'm out of the loop, but that's their life. That's what's going on around the country to country and government to government. He says when you immediately transact millions of dollars and you have all this, when you accumulate it all, he says you have something what you call interest by the second. Interest by the second. He says it adds up to some real money. And I'm like, interest by the second. Yeah, but I don't know those big numbers. When you have those big numbers and there's like a bunch of zeros behind it, interest by the second would be, I guess I could live on that for the rest of my life. Some of them well, you take all the transactions, you take all them transactions that are exchanging, constantly buying and selling, exchanging, interest by the second, you're talking a lot of revenue there going on that I'm not aware of. I'm just thinking about raising my corn and selling my corn, and there's my revenue. And I'm not thinking about this other revenue that is going on, and I'm not even aware of it. Plus, so when I'm telling this local banker, he says, everything you're saying is the same. We keep track of what everybody's doing, what they make, what they spend, interest by the second. It's the money people are more interested than me. But I'm going to be, just like you're going to be sucked up in it. What are you going to do about it? In the big economy, you're just a gnat compared to what they got going on. So I started this here city rural farmer deal, and a person, I've seen it myself. My cousin, they had a dairy farm. They raised hogs, rabbits, chickens. They were legitimate farmers. Eggs, gardening. And she moved off to Oregon, out there by Salem and Eugene, Oregon, out there. And went to go see him out there too. And Oregon's, for climate-wise, if you're on the other side of the mountain, on this side of the mountain, it's arid. It's kind of dry. But on that side, I remember going there when it was blackberry season. Shoot fire, them blackberries were huge out there. I thought, for climate-wise, and then my other cousin, he could go on the ocean and he'd go fishing and catch some nice ocean fish. But it's, I didn't see nothing wrong with the climate. Now, it wasn't the Bible Belt out there, I'll tell you that. So you're going to have some different stuff going on there as far as that goes. But she moved out there. Now she was my first cousin, same age as me. Now her daughter, she brought her daughter over there to my mother's place. And she was spending the night there, and my mother says to Sandy, go in the chicken coop there and go get eggs for breakfast. Sandy was familiar with that. And her daughter went with her. And now this is one generation removed. The daughter went in there, and why are we reaching our hands in these boxes? In her mind, where's the egg carton? We're reaching our hand in these little boxes, and the chickens laid them in here. And it was brand new concept to her daughter, one generation now. And you go, What do you mean the chickens? The chickens put the eggs in there. Yeah, they lay them. They laid them in there. Well, why don't they just the cartons and why? When, this is not how we go to the grocery store. Why do you got to do? Why don't they just go to the grocery store like we go to the grocery store? Well, when she found out where this egg, she reached in there and now this egg came out the chicken's butt. She started to puke. I'm not eating that. Well, girl, them eggs that was in that carton in the store, you don't think they came out of a chicken's butt too? I mean, it was gone. The knowledge and understanding of simple life was gone. And when she was introduced to where a chicken egg comes from, she's puking, but yet she was eating chicken eggs all the while. But that knowledge of something so simple was gone. Now, see, there's a lot of that's going on, and when you're none farming, that knowledge is gone. And so I go, agrarian. What is your kick? What's your beef on that? Well, you can live so long without air. You can live so long without sleep. People don't realize that sleep, you can't go a week without sleep. That's true that if you were asked the military, if you had a prisoner of war or whatever, you're getting these war crimes. If you can keep somebody awake, they'll die. So sleep is important, and it's just a sleep. And just shut your eyes and sleep, and everything's better. You didn't have to have money to sleep. You just sleep. You don't have to have money to breathe. Simple things to stay alive: air and sleep. You got to have water. You can go several days without water, and you can go several days without food. And after a while, you're gonna need food. You can go long quite some time, but you're gonna have to eventually have food to function. You can go without Gronk, and you can go without AI, and you can go without a vehicle. You can go without electricity, but you can't go without what I just mentioned: air, sleep, water, and food. Life's basics. And everybody is on the limb for that one. I don't care if you're in the city or the country. You got to drink some water, and you got to have some food, and you got to have some air to breathe, and you got to sleep. There. You get those basics, and you're physically alive. Now we can goof around with the air. We can goof around with your sleep time. That can mess with your mind. We can goof around with the water that you drink. We can put fluoride in there and other stuff in there that you probably don't need to be drinking. And we can mess around with your food, so we can goof that up a little bit. That you're eating something that in quantities would kill other animals, but you're eating it. And you folks probably know exactly what I'm talking about. Do you see how things? And you can live without money. You can live without money, unless you're told in your mind you have to have money to live, and you believe it. It's a belief system. And AI, the way the things are going in you gotta have money. You cannot live without money. If you believe that the system that you're living in is how you need to keep living it. Now, it's hard to get yourself separated. That's why I brought up this dollar bill. Was there anything cooking in somebody's mind back then when it says unus seclorum in a different? We're not English. That's not English. You'd say, why did you put something on there of a different language when we're English-speaking people? It just, I'd have questioned that. And you can find out yourself. Is there something cooking more than you're aware of? Well, it was for me. I found out, there's a lot of stuff going on it's like I'm sleeping. I'm not aware of it. So, and I'm getting along with the tooth on this one. Anyway, I got more to say about that stuff. More to say about our food, more to say about agrarian, more to say about farming, more to say about life in general, and mixed up with some real experiences that I had too.